Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a silent battle that's literally sitting right there in your pocket. We're going to pull back the curtain and unpack the core differences, the distinct philosophies, and the honestly fascinating origin stories behind the two absolute titans of mobile tech, Apple and Google. By looking at their history, we can totally understand how iOS and Android became the giants they are today.
So let's just get right into it. I've got to ask you right off the bat, are you Team Apple or are you Team Google? It's a question that actually gets people incredibly fired up. And, it makes total sense because our smartphones are hands down the most personal devices we own. This rivalry isn't just some boring corporate market share battle. It's deeply personal to us. When you pick a side, you're actually choosing a very specific way of interacting with the digital world.
Because here's the thing, these aren't just software platforms. They represent two completely divergent philosophies of technology. It's like two different universes. On one hand, you have Apple, fundamentally valuing stability, ease of use, and simplicity. And on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, Google's Android is built entirely around openness, choice, and customization. To really grasp why they're so fundamentally different, we have to look back at how they started.
Let's start by looking at the deep roots of iOS.
To understand exactly where Apple's highly controlled, super stable philosophy was born, let's jump back to 2005. Steve Jobs is envisioning the very first iPhone, and he's faced with this massive, foundational choice for the whole company. He could either take the iPod, which, remember, was Apple's biggest portable product back then, and enlarge it into a phone, or he could take the Mac computer and shrink it down. He actually had two different teams inside Apple battling it out to pursue both actions. Ultimately, the team that was trying to scale down the Mac created what we now know as iOS.
And this is a brilliantly perfect illustration that iOS didn't just, fall out of the sky. Its core DNA actually traces all the way back to a software called Next Step that was developed by Steve Jobs as a side project in 1986 after he was famously fired from Apple. When Apple bought Next Step in 1997, they brought Jobs back as CEO, and that software evolved into macOS, which was then shrunk down into the iPhone OS. It's crazy to think about, but iOS has this incredibly rich history spanning decades before the first iPhone was even announced.
Now, you might be wondering, why on earth did Jobs choose the macOS foundation instead of just supersizing an iPod? Well, the software was practically complete. It already had complex power management, animations, and sound built right in. Why reinvent the wheel, right? But probably the biggest factor was that Steve Jobs intimately knew the software inside and out from his days at Next Step. That deep, top-level knowledge is exactly why iOS felt so incredibly polished from day one. Now let's pivot to Android's scrappy, open beginnings. So looking at Google's side of the story, it's basically a mirror image of Apple's highly controlled approach. Android was born as a bit of a scrappy experiment. It was founded in 2003, but get this, it was initially meant to be software for digital cameras, no joke. Early on, the founders realized the camera market was just way too small, so they did a complete pivot. They decided to take on the dominant smartphone players of the time, like Symbian and Windows Mobile. And the real game changer here comes straight from Android co-founder Andy Rubin. He recognized that it was just too difficult to get new products out to consumers fast enough. To beat those established tech giants, they absolutely could not build another closed-off wall. They needed a completely open system. That philosophy of openness wasn't just a fun feature. It was literally baked into Android as a core survival strategy.
And man, that philosophy fueled some explosive evolution. After being founded in 2003, Google swoops in and buys Android in 2005 for over $50 million. But the real watershed moment is right there in 2007, with the unveiling of the Open Handset Alliance. Google knew they couldn't pull this off alone, so they teamed up with major players like HTC, Sony, Samsung, and Qualcomm to develop open standards for mobile devices.
That massive alliance led to the very first commercially available Android phone in late 2008, the HTC Dream. Now, early prototypes before this were actually more like Blackberries with physical keyboards, but they quickly pivoted to touchscreens to go head-to-head with the iPhone. The Dream introduced some totally game-changing features like heavy Gmail integration, super useful widgets, a pull-down settings menu, and almost limitless customization. But, well, it was a little jangly. It didn't fit together perfectly, and it was definitely a bit laggy. Honestly, that lack of Apple-level polish did some real damage to Android's brand early on with average consumers.
Moving right along to closing the performance gap. Android definitely didn't stay laggy for long, though. This kicked off an intense technological rivalry, as both systems started battling hard for absolute dominance. If you want quantifiable proof of Apple's early lead, just look at these numbers. In early 2014, the touch response time of a high-end Android phone was about 114 milliseconds at best. Meanwhile, Apple's iPhone 5 and 5S were clocking in at a blistering 75 milliseconds. That difference? You can absolutely feel it. It's exactly what made the early iPhone feel like magic, while Android felt like a computer working really hard just to keep up. But look at how fast the tables turned. Android became far less buggy and way more polished. By the end of that very same year, late 2014, new Android phones hit the market and the data totally shifted. Top Android smartphones actually became more responsive than the current iPhone. Google's scrappy open experiment was aggressively, and I mean aggressively, closing the gap. Which brings us to how these systems ultimately converged. As we bring this into the modern era, things get super fascinating because the strict boundaries between Apple's walled garden and Google's open frontier really start to blur. Objectively speaking, stock iPhones still lag slightly behind Android in terms of pure functionality. So, to stay competitive, Apple actually had to lift a significant number of features directly from Android's playbook. Early iPhones were pretty restricted, but over time, they loosened up. They added different phone sizes, brought in a notification center, added a low power mode, and introduced limited multitasking. Every single one of those concepts was championed by Android first. So after digging into these two totally different origin stories, Apple's quest for simple, top-down perfection versus Google's bet on messy, open customization, I want to leave you with this to think about. As these two systems keep borrowing from each other and converging, do the core benefits of iOS outweigh its limitations? Or does Android's foundational philosophy of openness and choice hold the ultimate key to success? Honestly, do these core differences even matter to you anymore? Something to chew on the next time you pick up your phone. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the tech in your pocket.